is Akil,
My name is Kaushik.
and our product is the Pet Care Tracker.
Okay, so we did a lot of research on pets and how healthy pets are and how people treat their pets, not only in terms of how they feed their pets, but exercising and going out on daily walks, hiking. And we found out that 37% of dogs are overweight and 19% are obese. And that means that more than 50% of dogs are essentially unhealthy because of the way that people treat their dogs. And our solution is the Pet Care Tracker. Pet Care Tracker is an app which monitors the pet's health while providing the necessary information to maintain fitness. And what that means is the user can essentially track different nutrients that the dog gets, such as proteins, fats, vitamins, stuff like that, as well as the calories that the dog takes on a daily basis to ensure that the dog does not get overweight. And they can also track the dog's fitness, such as walking, hiking, and different exercise to make sure that its muscles are strong and it maintains a good physical shape. So some of the features that our app has are a calorie and nutrition tracker, which is the main feature. And this will track different things such as, like I said before, vitamins, nutrients, calories. And it'll have a progress bar to show whether the dog reached the daily goal of calories and whether if the dog went overboard and received too much calories. And they can keep track on a monthly, weekly, and monthly basis. And then there is, of course, the exercise/fitness tracker, which just shows like hourly walks or hourly other exercises that the user wants to log. And then other information that you can track on the app is medication and vaccines. So whenever a dog is born, there's a lot of procedures like getting vaccines such as DHPP or rabies. These different vaccines are important to ensure that the dog doesn't get any diseases or viruses over a period of time. So with this app, you can keep track of when you got the vaccine and also which vaccines you got at which clinic, and then behavior and habits. So we actually realized that keeping track of different behavioral changes in a dog is very important. Let's say that a dog is very active and is very excited to go walks on a daily basis, but all of a sudden it's becoming very lazy and sluggish. These type of behavior changes are really important. And these are things that you need to tell your veterinarian to make sure that they can diagnose the dog properly, ensure that there isn't anything wrong, or if the dog has any diseases or anything like that. And then we can also export data to professionals so that they can also see what type of nutrients are like everything that the dog is getting. So in terms of the prototype, we started developing the app with Flutter, which allows us to download the app both on the App Store and Android Store, but we weren't able to finish all the features and the UI. So we're just going to show you the wireframe that we developed. This is essentially just a sign-in page. You sign in, and this is the nutrients that we're talking about. So there's the calorie intake, and you can see there's the daily goal or set amount that the dog needs to get based on its breed. And then so far the dog has gone 1,050 calories and it still needs to get 350 calories for the day. And then you can see weekly average. And then the nutrition, so water, proteins, fat, vitamins. And this is all based on weight. So proteins in terms of grams, fats in terms of grams. And this is all not just like random numbers based on the breed. You actually have to calculate the lean weight of the dog to get like accurate numbers for the amount of nutrients that the dog has to get, because just knowing the breed of a dog doesn't mean that the numbers are the same for every dog. Each dog has a different body, and you have to calculate how much fat it has, how much its index is to ensure the correct amount that it's getting. And then next, we have the vaccine record. So you can see different vaccines such as distemper, and then the date that you that the clinic gave the vaccine, and then which clinic it is. So Animal Medical Center or Pleasanton or other clinics. Usually you want to keep it at the same clinic, but just record just to make sure that you know everything about the dog. And then finally, the behavior log. So walking. So let's say that the dog is usually pretty excited to go out on walks, but all of a sudden it's not excited anymore. That's pretty important for you to tell the veteran or veterinarian so that they can diagnose the dog and find out if there's any issues early on before it gets more severe. And again, other things like eating habits, water, and daily activity. And that's pretty much the wireframe. Going back to presentation.
So market research. Overall, the pet care industry is booming with 90 million dogs in just the United States, and the North American pet care industry being worth $225 billion. But before we began working on this app and focusing on this industry, we contacted 4 veterinarians and discussed common issues they saw with unhealthy dogs and potential solutions to these problems. And from there, we called 34 veterinary clinics describing our app and its planned features. 25 of these clinics said that they would be interested in using this app if it was functional. And in addition, our market research shows that there are no other apps in the market that have incorporated all these features and components.
Yeah, and especially the nutrient tracker. There's no app out there that has either the nutrient tracker or the behavior log right now.
So business model. So currently we are focusing on creating a functional and viable prototype. Once we do that, we plan on running a few beta trials with pet owners and their vets. At that stage, the revenue would be generated through ads. And if our trials prove to be successful, we will file for a proprietary license and copyright the code. And we've read the USPTO criteria, or the United States Patent and Trademark Office, and we've read their criteria, and we believe our app would be eligible for a patent, and as well, since the combination of features and the app's ability to send all this data to the vet itself differentiates itself from other apps in the market. And for a third stage, we would also generate revenue through a licensing fee. And given that we get the patent, our projected revenue for this app 5 years from now is $240,000.
Yep, that's it in terms of the model. And then we do have, we did start actually developing the app through Flutter, which is one of Google's software development kits, but we couldn't get it far enough to actually make all the features functional. So that's why we had to show the wireframe. If you guys would like, I can show you how much we've developed so far.
Yeah, I think the wireframes kind of tell us the story, but I do have a couple of questions. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, well, the wireframes kind of tell us the story, so I think that's okay. But the app itself, if you look into the user journey, who is going to get used, it seems like the app is on the pet owner's phone, perhaps, given the fact that it's a Flutter app. So I'm guessing eventually it will be an Android or an iOS app. But the customer journey requires incredible amount of manual input, not only to set it up, but also on an ongoing basis. But the real pitch really should be along the lines of hey, it's a Fitbit for dogs, right? So so if I were to basically use your product, my biggest concern is okay, I'll be spending a lot of time just trying to actually do data entry. Have you thought about that being a barrier for adoption, or have you had any thoughts around that?
Yes. So like I was saying, the nutrients, the different carbohydrates or fats or whatever, like that's important for the dog, but I was doing some research about like people don't really like feed like dogs like raw ingredients, right? To get the nutrients. They usually feed the dogs like certain like foods like kibble or like certain like pre-made foods. So we were thinking like if you usually just inputted the type, like the brand of the food that they buy, like pedigree, pet foods, or things like that, and then just like the flavor, like lamb and beef, or there's different flavors for each brand of food or pet food company. If they just enter those two details, we were trying to make the rest like automated, because like based on just that information, we can find out like all the nutrients in the food just through the labels.
And how much food each pet needs to like, reach the necessary amount of calories
Yeah.
and vitamins.
I agree with Madame in that it is more of a Fitbit for dogs. And when it comes to the food part, forgive me for being overly simplistic, but the biggest challenge we have in our house is that our dog is a liar. So we don't know if he's actually been fed or not. So sometimes he gets a second meal out of one of the family members. What would be okay in normal times when we're leaving the house at different times and we don't know if the poor dog had 1 or 2 breakfasts is if we could see that the dog already ate. Most of the time we can just ping each other, on an app and say, did you feed him? And I really have no way of knowing effectively if my dog is telling the truth or not. He's about 10 pounds. So that said, over time that could really affect his health if we're double feeding him per se. I think the next place that you could go with the Fitbit for dogs is to doggy daycare. So for example, when people travel or if they work long days, 10-hour days, and they're not home, oftentimes there's an expectation that the caregiver will let you know how long did they go out for a walk, right? In the Fitbit example, you may even be able to track how far the dog went or how much physical activity they had. And then that is, automatically calculated and sent to your app through their collar per se, like a Fitbit for dogs. So I think that you've done a great job of really digging down into the details to try to get the ultimate, health and wellness there for the dog. But as a busy parent with kids and dog, all I want to know is, when is his next vaccination coming? Did he eat or did he not? And when is it time to pick him up? And it really does help me to know whether or not he got out when he was at the pet sitter, because then he's either more likely or not to have an accident inside the house or in the car, right? So these are some of like the simple things that could be very helpful for people at different stages. And then my very last, my question for you is, can you remind me what SDG you're aiming to solve? What's the big problem?
This is NGN, not SDG, but that's fine.
Right, there's a list of 21.
Yeah,
Which one is it?
Yeah.
I'm not entirely.
You're not sure. It's okay. I couldn't remember if I saw it on your banner. On your first page, do you have it listed?
No. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay. I mean, it's helpful to understand.
I can try and look.
That's fine.
That's fine. It was very creative, guys. Thank you.